everyone. Welcome to the quarterfinals here of the Season 1 Invitational in Roanoke, Virginia. Senator Phillips, Craig Krempels, we are here in the booth getting ready to watch our first quarterfinal matchup between Frank Skarren playing Burn and Michael Strianese playing Eldrazi Tron. Burn on the play here, Craig, and I think that's a pretty darn big deal.
Yeah, that is definitely an advantage. It is 5 games.
True.
So it's not best of one here. It's not like being on the play for the first game is the end of the world.
True.
But it is definitely an advantage.
As we talked about in the pregame show, if you missed it, we implore you to check it out. But more importantly, there's a lava spike here from Frank. Michael's already down to 17. Eldrazi Temple is going to be a big deal for Michael.
Yes.
He's got to find that card, preferably 2 of them, and play a Thought Knot Seer ahead of schedule. If he can do that, life is going to be pretty good. Not to say that the Tron lands are bad. The Tron lands are certainly good, but he's got to actually complete the Tron. Now, he's got the Tower of Power. It's an Expedition map. And I already see another Tron piece in his hand in Urza's Mine, so Tron will be online by turn 3.
Yeah, the little bit that I can see of his hand right now is not that exciting. The key here, Thought Knot Seer ahead of schedule, Reality Smasher ahead of schedule, or turn 2 Chalice of the Void.
Frank has a second land, and he has another Lava Spike. Now, the bad thing here for Frank is that he'd prefer for these 1-mana spells to be creatures.
Yes.
Swift Spear, Goblin Guide, so on and so forth. Instead, it's just burn spells. And not to say that that's bad, because that's what his deck is meant to do, but it's not great. It's not great.
It looks like his draw might line up okay against Michael's draw, because Michael's just building towards the turn 3 Tron. So he hasn't established any board presence on turns 1 and 2.
Now, Michael's build of this deck is generally what you'd expect. He's got Matter Shaper, Walking Ballistas, Thought Knot Seers, Reality Smashers, a couple of copies of Endbringer. He's got a main deck copy of Ulamog, which doesn't generally play a role against Burn, but if things line up a certain way, it could here.
It's pretty doubtful. And that's one that we usually don't see in these Eldrazi Tron decks. It's just a little bit too big. It's a little bit too expensive. The Tron decks can usually close out the game with the Reality Smashers, with the Endbringers, and they don't need the 10 drop.
A Wooded Foothills here from Frank, and I think he's just going to be passing the turn back. No creatures here. Strianese is going to sacrifice that Expedition map, and he's already got an Urza's Mine in hand, so he might go for another tower. He might go for one of his value lands. Looks like he's going to go grab a Ghost Quarter. I believe, and can you confirm, it's 2 pre-sideboard, 3 with sideboard?
This is what Michael needs to happen this game, is for Frank to have the non-recursive sources of damage. So like you said, no Goblin Guide, no Swift Spear. And then Mike needs Frank to just draw 1 or 2 more lands than he might normally want to draw. You know, the window just needs to open a little bit, and then the Eldrazi deck can get to work right away.
Matter Shaper into Walking Ballista. So right now, if you're Frank, you're probably thinking, okay, those aren't Reality Smashers, Thought Knot Seers, Endbringers, anything too bad.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you're on the Burn side and you're told that this is what your opponent's going to be doing, you'll take this every single game.
Yeah. Can't be too unhappy with that. Now, we'll see if Frank has something like a Searing Blaze, which, of course, he has 4 main deck copies of. And he did leave a fetch land on the battlefield. And you see he's shuffling between a couple of cards here. So Frank trying to figure out exactly how he can move forward. He will sacrifice, maybe, a Wooded Foothills. So note, he does have 1 Stomping Ground in his main deck here, but the green cards are in the sideboard. Mostly Destructive Revelry. You're not going to find any main deck copies of a Tarkus Command here. He's going to get himself a Sacred Foundry, and it looks like it's going to be untapped. Interesting.
Frank's dealing himself a lot of damage here.
Yeah? What's he going to
Somebody let him know he's not playing Death Shadow.
Oh, he knows. He knows. I have to imagine Searing Blaze is on the way.
Yeah, the fetch here is very telling.
All right, here is Searing Blaze. He's going to go after Walking Ballista, it appears. Remember 2 targets.
Okay,
Ballista
yeah.
and the player, so can't make this not happen. Searing Blaze, very, very powerful card from the original Zendikar. Walking Ballista is going to deal Frank 2. And now a Lightning Bolt as well. So Strianese is going to fall down to 8. Frank's last card in his hand is a Boros Charm, so he's almost there.
Yeah, he's close.
He'll draw.
Looks like a Lightning Bolt.
Okay. It looks like, I'll say this much.
Okay.
It looks like it's not a land.
Sure. Tough to tell.
Yeah.
He's got the quick shuffle going
on.
Yeah.
He does. Maybe a creature?
Okay,
Okay,
Swift
Monastery
Spear.
Swift Spear. Let's go over to Michael Strianese now. He's picked up in Urza's Tower of Power.
All right, Michael, we need to get something big on the board here.
Yeah, we talked about in the pregame shows, there's another tower. He's got 10 mana now, so if he has Ulamog, he can cast it. But he's got to find Thought-Knot Seers, which aren't even going to be that good now. Reality Smasher, which will still be good because it's a clock. Endbringer might be too slow, truth be told. But attacking for right now is Matter Reshaper.
Yeah, and a couple of its bigger payoff cards are not very good in this matchup. All Its Dust, not great. Karn Liberated, not great.
It can be good sometimes, but for the most part, not great.
Well, definitely in this situation, it's not
horrible.
looking good.
Horrible. Ballista.
Ooh, that's a big boy.
3, 6. All right, that's a lot of counters. That's a 5/5. So Frank's effectively at 4. Frank looks like he might just play this Boros Charm here. Yep. Gonna bring Michael down to 4.
All right, so he's drawing to a 4 damage spell.
Yeah, Boros Charm is his best draw right now.
But he doesn't have a ton of those.
3 left. Draw a card. It's not a Boros Charm. And if you're Frank, you're really hoping it's not a land.
Even a burn spell isn't super great for him here.
Grim Lavamancer. Well, that's not going to hang around long.
Well, and Michael's going to pick up this game. He's going to clear out those blockers.
Yeah, he can't just because of dumping man in a Walking Ballista.
Yep, pump the Ballista up and then use the extra counters post-combat to finish off Frank.
Well, it's his job to make sure he sees that play.
For sure.
Yeah, in a spot like this. Because I do agree that he should pick up this game this turn. He can dump mana into Walking Ballista, kill the creatures, attack, and then kill Frank. And he's going to remove a counter to take care of Lavamancer. He's going to remove 1.
He's being very methodical about it.
As he should be.
Yeah,
I agree.
A little bit on the line here.
Yeah. Here's a land.
Yeah,
3, 4, 5.
Taking this game, and he just broke serve.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty big deal here because I thought one of the things that was going to be pretty tough for him was him being on the draw to kick things off. Frank did mulligan down to 6, but Michael Strianese and able to break serve without Thought-Knots here in Reality Smasher.
That was huge.
I think that's a really, really big deal here. Now, do remember in our top 8 and throughout our elimination rounds, 2 games pre-sideboard, 3 games with sideboard.
Sure.
So that's why you see them just immediately starting to shuffle. We're not going to go to the sideboard just yet. That will begin in game number 3, but I'm with you. Him winning that game, breaking serve, and not doing with one of his best draws. A good draw, Tron on turn 3, but not a Thought-Knot Seer on turn 2 or Reality Smasher on turn 3. We didn't see any of that.
Well, and I'd mentioned this in our pregame predictions. The burn deck doesn't just always run perfect.
True.
You know, we saw Frank, he drew spells in the mid game there, but they weren't the right spells. The the little creatures that he ended up drawing.
Wrong time
to draw them.
Yep.
And that's one of the things that sometimes happens with the burn deck. He actually had a lot of quote-unquote blank spells there that just wouldn't have helped him out. All of the creatures, the 3 damage burn spells weren't going to finish that game off.
We're basically talking just about Boros Charm at that point. He was on more or less a 3-outer to get the job done. And as you saw, he wasn't able to. That's why Michael Strianese is up a game here over Frank Skarren. Eldrazi up a game over Burn. Let's talk StarCityGames.com weekly sale, shall we, folks? Before we watch game number 2, because we got 15% off select Modern cards, and with a Modern top 8, you can get some savings here. Go to StarCityGames.com/weekly sale is the place to be. You got Damnation, Polluted Delta, Meddling Mage, Lightning Bolt, which Frank is playing 4 copies of this weekend. A new sale, of course, Monday morning at 11 a.m. East Coast time. Once again, go to StarCityGames.com/weekly sale for more information.
And I have confirmed with my wife, I have filled out my Zendikar Fetchland collection.
Perfect.
All set up.
Good to go. If we have updates for you on our backup match, we'll certainly bring them to you. It's James Woolmacher against Brian Colville. Woolmacher, your number 1 overall seed, with a very unique take on Abzan. I recommend you go check out our coverage page over at StarCityGames.com to see those 2 Voice of Resurgences, those 3 main deck copies of Bitter Blossom, and yes, 4 main deck copies of Knight of the Reliquary for James. It's taken him to the number 1 overall seed through the Swish portion of this tournament. We'll see if he can keep it going in the elimination rounds. And for Brian Colville, he's playing Death and Taxes. Believe it or not, he is. It's not Legacy, it is Modern, and it's a unique deck. And it seems to be a pretty good one, though we think this might be a tough matchup for him against James.
Yeah, not a lot of people picked him.
I think you're on your own island there, huh?
I like an island. Go swimming, hang out on the beach a little bit.
I don't like any of those things. I want a couch and I want a television.
Back to the water thing with you, huh?
Yeah,
it just always goes back to the water
Not
thing.
a big fan of water.
Nah.
Thank you. Frank and Michael are going to take a look at their opening hands here. Looks like Frank might be happy with his opener. We'll see as Michael's taking a long look at his.
My island is filled with unlimited draft sets. How do you feel about that?
You're starting to speak my language a little bit. Look, I can be convinced. I can be persuaded as Michael's going to take a mulligan here. It looks like Frank is happy with his opening hand. So he'll take a look at 6 cards. Hopefully we can take the opportunity to learn a little bit more about Frank right now. Frank is, it's been an interesting run. You know, for someone who's got 2 Grand Prix titles, no one really talks about him.
Yeah, I mean, winning a Grand Prix is no small feat.
It's really hard to do. I haven't done that. Probably never will do that. Now, Frank has had some success here on the SCG Tour as a 26-year-old from Merrick, New York, but he's won 2 limited Grand Prix. He took some time away from the game to lose a whole bunch of weight. You see there, 160 pounds and going over the past year and a half. And now he's kind of, he was never, it's weird. I want to say he's back in the spotlight. He's never really had the spotlight because the 2 Grand Prix that he won, Grand Prix Charlotte, huge, won another one in the Northeast, and it was just like it kind of didn't happen.
Sure.
Because, you know, he's a pretty quiet guy. He keeps to himself.
Yeah, not a big ego.
No, not a big ego. Did some writing for Star City Games a couple of years ago before he took his sabbatical. But, you know, as he's come back here and working with Team Metagame Gurus, and that's Jim Davis, Ben Friedman, a whole bunch of people, really good friend of Seth Manfield, the former world champion. This guy's no slouch, man. This guy's no slouch. This is not an accident that he's here in the top 8. Looks like Michael's going to scry after keeping his 6. If he were to win this tournament, it would not surprise me.
Sure.
I'll say that much. I know he's not the big name like Adrian Sullivan or Todd Anderson, Jerry Thompson, Brad Nelson, Tom Ross, some of the other players that played in this tournament, but this is a very skilled Magic player here on the left, though he is down a game with his burn deck. Plus, to win 2 limited Grand Prix, I'm not saying Constructed's easy, but limited is, that's tough.
I think any Grand Prix is just very difficult.
Yeah.
And they're only getting more difficult. The players are getting better. The fields are getting bigger. You know, the prize pools are staying about the same.
Yeah, that's true. Grim Lavamancer here. Off of an Inspiring Vantage. It's an Urza's Mine and an Expedition map. We can let you know that Brian Colville, with his Death and Taxes deck, currently up a game here over to James Woolmacher, playing his unique take on Obzon. Craig is twiddling his fingers because he's feeling very correct right now about things.
Oh, it feels so good.
Grim Lavamancer's coming across here for 1. Strianese is going to fall down to 19. Sacred Fountain is going to bring Frank down to 18. Is it perhaps an Eidolon? All right, so this is a nice start here for Frank.
You call this a nice start. The Eidolon's actually a little bit risky in this type of matchup. When you're playing against fatties, some haste trampling fatties, you don't want to be dealing yourself a whole lot of damage throughout the game.
So I don't love dealing myself some damage, but I do like having recursive sources of damage.
Sure.
So for him to have creatures this game and where he didn't last game, I would be pretty happy about that.
Yeah, but this is far and away the worst one.
Yes.
It doesn't have haste. It costs 2 mana. You know, it can get chewed up by, you know, a giant walking ballista.
Certainly not the best card in the matchup. No argument there. But this game, much different than the last one where he's got creatures to begin things with the Lavamancer, though that Lavamancer would rather be a Swift Spear or a Goblin Guide.
Same thing. If it's turn 1 creature, turn 2 creature, these are about the best creatures that Michael could be looking at.
That's true. That's true. Michael did play another Tron piece, and he's got the Expedition map, so Tron will be online for him again on turn number 3. We'll see what he can do with it. Last game, it was Walking Ballista and Matter Shaper. This game, it could be a whole bunch more, as Frank is going to play in Arid Mesa. Looks like it's going to be Eidolon that comes across for 2. Strianese is going to fall down to 17.
Yeah, and Frank's all set up to cast a burn spell, use the fetch land, and activate the Grim Lavamancer.
So at the end of this turn, Strianese could fall down to something like 12, maybe a little lower than that. We'll see. For now, he's going to sacrifice an Expedition map and go get himself the Tower of Power, Tron online, if he'd like for it to be.
Can't imagine he has a better plan.
Well, it is in the name of the deck, after all. And if it is that, if it's not Tron online, then Frank's in a whole lot of trouble. Let's just say that. There's a tower. And I see a Reality Smasher over there, I think. But perhaps we're going to go towards Thought Not Seer. There's also a Mind Stone in hand.
Yeah, I hope Michael just avoids taking any damage from this Eidolon if he can avoid it.
Well, there's the old TKS. Thought Not Seer has arrived, and there will be a trigger on the stack here in just a moment.
What a good creature.
Pretty good card. Pretty good card.
No, I see what you did there.
Pretty good card.
You said pretty a lot.
Pretty good card.
Someone should use that in a show or something.
And make a whole bunch of money off of it.
Yeah.
And then I can get my money, my trademark money, my copyright money.
I thought you were already independently wealthy.
No, believe it or not. Believe it or not, that's just not true. See how Frank wants to respond here. I know he's got at least one land in hand. There's a Boros Charm. Looks like there's a Searing Blaze. He might want to Searing Blaze plus Lavamancer this Thought Not Seer.
Yep.
There's some real decisions to be had here for the burn player. It looks like maybe he's valuing Boros Charm quite highly. A lot of people think that burn is just kind of a straightforward, easy deck to play. And that's not always the case.
Well, especially with the Eidolon on the board, that makes things a lot trickier. Because Frank's the one who's going to be taking damage from this, and not Michael.
And he just took 2 from that Boros Charm, while Michael took more than 2. He took 4. Now, Searing Blaze is obviously going to bite the dust. The fact that Frank has 2 of these is very good news for him, as he can use that in combination with the Lavamancer to take care of the Thought Not Seer and get a card back and deal a whole bunch of damage. So, not a bad exchange.
Yeah, I like Frank's decision here. Using the Boros Charm maximizes the damage. He's still going to be able to get the Thought Not Seer off of the board next turn. It's a good spot to be in.
Strianese with 3 mana. Yeah, he doesn't want to play a spell in the Eidolon, it appears.
Yeah.
Frank gonna think about if he wants to sacrifice the fetch land and a turn or not. I don't think that he wants to, so he's not. Maybe he wants to sacrifice on the upkeep.
Yep.
I like this play. This will still trigger landfall for Searing Blaze and still get a land out of his deck. There's a basic mountain.
Ooh, is that a snow-covered mountain?
There's a little snow on that. I think that's a requirement to be on TeamMetaGameGurus.com. When you play basics in older formats, they have to have snow on them.
Sure.
Jim started that. Jim's been playing Goblins for a while, though he doesn't in Legacy anymore. And he was playing snow-covered mountains there. So, and Jim's the captain, so captain's orders. Frank will draw.
Looked like a fetch.
Yep. Needs more spells. And what always makes the top 8s very interesting to me is you see Frank is kind of, yeah, I think it's a straightforward play. You know, Searing Blaze this, kill it with Lavamancer. Maybe in a normal round he would make this play a lot faster, but there's a little more on the line right now. So you're going to see some pausing, some sighing, some deep breaths, making sure that, hey, I want to make sure I'm not screwing up here with so much on the line. Make sure I don't forget the fact that I'm going to draw a card off a Thought Not Seer.
Yep.
All that stuff. Because one thing that's really eluded Frank over the past handful of months is he has not qualified for the Pro Tour yet.
Okay.
You know, so him winning this tournament puts him back on the Pro Tour. It's one of the many benefits of doing well at the Invitational. Same thing can be said for a lot of the people playing in the top 8 here. I think that all of them, except for maybe Daniel, I'd have to go ask him. Adrian looking for the invite.
Okay.
Yeah, Todd looking for the invite.
Yeah, and yeah, when you want to play on the Pro Tour, getting that invite is just such an accomplishment.
Yep. That's just one avenue to do it. Now that is a good draw.
Ooh.
Goblin Guide was a nice find. Frank had to take 2, but that is a nice find. It's 10 to 10. Let's make it 10 to 6. Trigger, wastes.
How lucky.
Yep. Yeah. 10 to 6. Couple of cards in the graveyard there. And now, what can Strianese do? He'll draw a card for the turn. Now, it's funny, remember, this is game 1. Excuse me, this is game 2. This is pre-sideboard.
Game 2, but
effectively game 1.
Yeah.
Pre-sideboard. And I agreed with your assessment that All of Dust is not good in this matchup. All of Dust might be okay right now.
Yeah, it would certainly be good now. But this is a pretty corner case. It's rare when Frank's going to have 3 creatures on the board and the game's just not over.
Yeah. There's the wastes.
And this is kind of playing out more how I thought it would. The game one with Michael's slow start, I would have guessed that he would lose that game. This game's looking very tough for him because he had a very similar slow start. You know, the turn 3 Thought Knot Seer that just died the very next turn, not the most effective way to be going about things.
Well, you know, if you were Michael in that situation, you're hoping you only see 1 Searing Blaze.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
oh, of course.
But Frank's hand was more than good enough to be able to take care of Thought Knot Seer this game.
Sure, if it was only 1 Searing Blaze, it would have just gotten used right away.
Yep. And it also kind of goes to show and kind of highlights the difference between the play and the draw in this matchup. Remember, Michael's been on the draw both games.
Yes.
Did steal game 1, which is always great, but he's been on the draw both games, where Thought Knot Seer is much better on the play than on the draw.
Yeah, he needs a big payoff card, which it seems like he doesn't have because he's taking so much time. A Walking Ballista would be spectacular here.
Very, very good.
Like you said, the All Is Dust would be very good here. A lot of these other cards, not very good here.
Reality Smasher has come down, but I do not think that Reality Smasher can attack.
It just smashed the whole table.
It did. It did. It is that good of a card. And now he's just going to pass the turn back. Frank's last card in hand is a Sacred Foundry. He, I think, accidentally showed that one, so he'll untap.
And Michael had a Matter Reshaper in his hand there, and he just couldn't play it.
No. It's just much too risky to play. Doesn't want to go down to 4. Doesn't want to hope that Frank forgets his Eidolon trigger. I'll tell you that much.
Although if Frank can't finish him off here, and Michael has another Reality Smasher, maybe next turn he draws the big Walking Ballista. Yeah, we could see another stolen game.
Goblin Guy trigger. Urza's Tower going to go to hand here for Michael.
2 times lucky.
Yeah. Yes. Luck flooded.
Yeah, Michael's thinking about which one of these he wants to kill.
Yeah, so if you kill the Eidolon, Frank is out from underneath his own Eidolon.
Yes.
Which he might be happy with, but it also turns on your spells, but you might want to try to leave Frank underneath the Eidolon. So it's actually kind of a tough decision and a really nice attack here from Frank. Goblin Guy's just giving away cards, so maybe you want that out there. Who knows? Looks like Strianese is going to jump in front of the Goblin Guy. He's going to fall down to 4. I think Frank has a spell. If he does, he's good. Yeah, Lightning Helix. And then a Grim Lava Mancer activation.
We'll close out this game.
That should take us home.
Looking at 1-1 going to the sideboard.
Now, as we look at 1-1 going to the sideboard, who's happier about this?
It's a little awkward. So Michael Strianese has a lot of cards he wants to get out of his deck, but he only has a few actually good cards that he wants to bring in for the matchup.
Okay.
So, you know, you would think he'd be happy to get some of these clunky, expensive cards out of his deck, but he doesn't have that much stuff to bring in. On the flip side, Frank has to be so scared of Chalice of the Void. We didn't see games 1 or 2, but now he's saying, all right, I get to bring in some Destructive Revelries. There's often going to be a target for this card. It gets me out from Chalice of the Void. He gets to bring in the Molten Rain, which turn 3 on the draw might be too slow, but on the play, Molten Rain can just be backbreaking for an Eldrazi-tron deck. So I think Frank's a little bit happier to be going sideboard here.
All right, well, they are tied up 1-1, and we will take a look at the sideboards here for those of you unfamiliar. I'm going to start with Michael since he'll be on the play here for game number 3. He's got those 2 Graph Triggers cages. Not so much here.
Nope.
2 Hangerback Walkers.
We'll probably see him.
I think we'll probably see him because he's got enough bad cards.
Yes.
2 Ratchet Bombs, yes.
Yep.
Kills the 1-drops. Not that worried about Eidolon, but again, better than something like All's Dust, Karn, Ulamog.
Exactly.
2 Relic of Progenitus, not really. I don't think. 2 Surgical Extractions, not really.
Nope.
Warping Whale.
I don't like it. it's very narrow, and a lot of the sorceries that it might be able to counter are going to be cast so early in the game.
Could counter a top deck sorcery, though.
It could, but that's a corner case scenario.
Okay.
To me, in order for Michael to be winning these games, he has to be doing something proactive. Turn 2, turn 3, turn 4, and he's just going to be tapped out most of the time.
Okay. Basilisk Collar, obviously in.
Yep, that's a slam dunk.
Wormcoil Engine, obviously in. Pithing Needle would really only stop Grimlockmancer, and then if you can snipe a fetch land.
Yeah, I wouldn't even try.
Yeah, not worth it. So Strianese does have some pretty good options. We go over to Frank now. He's got 3 Path to Exile. Do you like a card in this matchup that, yes, can handle Reality Smasher, yes, can handle Endbringer, yes, can handle Thought-Knot Seer, but it doesn't deal damage?
I would if you weren't bringing in other cards.
Okay.
So we talk about the burn decks diluting their deck too often. They over-sideboard. They end up with a bunch of sideboard cards in their hand, and they don't have the right depth. They don't have the right number of burn spells to close out games. You know, drawing a Path to Exile when you're really far behind, you're still really far behind.
Okay.
You know, if it's just one creature, it might be great, but I think he has to bring in the Destructive Revelry. I think the Molten Rain is a little bit too juicy to not bring in.
Yeah, I mean, it's a one-of, but it's good. I think it's just still good enough.
Yep.
For Stony Silence, I want to make sure that's a no. This isn't your normal builds of Tron that had Chromatic Spheres and Chromatic Stars. You got Map. No. Relic, no. Not really. Rest in Peace, no. Deflecting Palm, yes. Yeah, I think.
I can see one of the Deflecting Palms coming in. I don't know if you... Same thing. You don't want to end up in a situation where you have these cards in your opener, you're waiting forever for them to be good, and Michael's able to play around them because he's so far ahead. You know, it gets peeled with a Thought-Knot Seer if it just sits in the hand too long. Walking Ballista can potentially close out the game around a Deflecting Palm.
True.
So there's just reasons not to have too many of these situational cards in the deck.
Searing Blood, not good enough, but Molten Rain, I feel like it's a card you want on the play but not on the draw.
I can see that.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Well, those are the options there for both players. They're about sideboarded up, so they're going to shuffle, and Michael Strianese will be on the play here for game number 3. Let's talk about SCG Game Night, folks. For those of you who missed it, we unveiled a little something special for the month of July, August, September. We'll get to September in a moment. Goose St. Traft is for July. You can get pins and tokens at your local SCG Game Night, so check that out all month long. As we go to August, you know about Puggernaut. Puggernaut will not be walled off.
Little guy. Look at this cute little guy.
Little might not be true.
Oh, he's so cute.
He's cute. I wouldn't know about little.
Take him out for a walk around the neighborhood.
Okay, smash some houses.
Yeah,
give
smash
some
some houses. Yeah.
Very big fan of that. And the stinky guy. Old Smell Snare. My favorite of the year.
They got you to model for this card.
That's really uncalled for. Go to StarCityGames.com/game night for more information. Store owners who want to be a part of this program, make sure you do contact your StarCityGames.com in-store play representative. September's going to be sweet.
I just meant that you're a 1/1 wizard.
Oh, okay. Well,
that's all I was trying to say.
I feel like I'm more of like a 2/2.
That's
wizard
fair.
Than a 1/1.
Grown over time.
Yeah.
More powerful.
I'm a big guy. You know, go to the gym, and I just feel like I'm not a 1/1.
Then why's your goblin so small?
Well, that was a long time ago. We got to update that, actually. We have to update that goblin.
2/2 goblin coming.
That's right. On the way. We do have an update for you on our backup match. Brian Colville, 2-0. I think you're the only one to pick Brian, right?
I don't know, Cedric.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I mean, you were flip-flopping a lot. Matthias didn't know who he was picking. You know, and this could go either way.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to say that I was right because I think you're going to have to say it at some point.
Okay. So, yeah, we'll just see how that goes, I guess. Brian up currently 2-0 with his very unique Death and Taxes deck. He played 2 very unique decks to get himself into the elimination rounds here this morning. Death and Taxes over in the Modern side, and Grixis Death Shadow over in the Standard side. You see Frank taking a look at deck list very quickly here, wants to make sure he hasn't made some sort of egregious error with his sideboarding. That is one of the benefits of playing in the top 8. You have that information about exactly what the opponent's deck list is. I know these players spent some time last night, both before and after dinner, testing their matchups, and as Matthias had mentioned when we were kind of analyzing Adrian Sullivan's matchup, Adrian had every deck list and took out the old highlighter to see what he had to take care of with his Lantern deck, because Lantern cares about very specific cards.
Yes, and he had other people there with him helping him through the process.
So Adrian really looking to get the job done. Now he is on a tough side of the bracket. Matthias hunting Rhino over Turf will be bringing that to you guys. Adrian going to go against Daniel Fournier, a very, very skilled player from Canada. And then if he's able to make it through, he's either going to be playing against Daniel Byington, who's playing Eldrazi or some guy named Todd Anderson playing Grixis Death Shadow.
Who's that? First tournament?
Second.
Second tournament.
Second tournament. Second tournament.
Probably nervous.
Generally pretty nervous when he's playing. And he plays really slow. He doesn't play his spells quickly and confidently, ever. Both players are happy with their openers. We're going to be underway here in game number 3.
Always a treat when we get to broadcast Todd on camera.
I do agree. As a Nurse's Tower and an Expedition map here from Michael. Over to Frank. He's got a Wooded Foothills. He's going to bring him down to at least 19, potentially 17. Curious to see how low he wants to go.
Well, Michael's finally on the play.
Yep.
It looks like he might be going down the same road where he doesn't do anything until the turn 3 Tron is assembled.
We've not seen the Eldrazi Temple draws from his Eldrazi Tron deck just yet. Frank with the Sacred Foundries, he falls to 17. He's got a recursive source of damage there in Monastery Swiftspear. So Strianese will fall down to 19, and he'll take his second turn of the game. Let's see what land this is. This is important. All right, so there's his mine.
Yep, Tron piece.
So he'll have Tron online turn 3 yet again. One game it's been good, one game it has not. That's actually one of the interesting things about Burn, is that it can beat a Tron player even if they have turn 3 Tron. It just depends on what that turn 3 play is going to be. Here's a Goblin Guide. And there will be a trigger from that.
Looks like an Endbringer.
And now, Sacrifice. Now we have bad news here for Frank Skarren fans.
Yep, the one-lander.
The one-lander, it appears.
His deck could help him out.
You're really going to need a second land.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's really going to need a second land.
I don't know, maybe his opponent just won't have Tron on turn 3.
Yeah. Let's go over to Michael now, who's searched up the last Tron piece. It's the Urza's Power Plant. He'll draw a card for the turn. What's the payoff? That's the question. 4 mana. This is one of those spots where Thought-Knot Seer is very, very good. Big body. Get a good look at what he's got to worry about in hand. There is Thought-Knot Seer. Trigger. You see the hand here. And it looks like Michael's going to lay it out for himself and for us.
Thank you, Michael.
Lightning Helix, Lava Spike, Lightning Bolt, 2 Skull Cracks, and the Molten Rain. So we thought that maybe Frank might only bring in the Molten Rain on the play. He's brought it in on the draw as well.
Sure. And this is an easy choice. It's the Lightning Bolt. Far and away the best card in this hand. Obviously with Frank only stuck on 1 mana, but it's also the card that allows Frank to punch through the Thought-Knot Seer if he were to want to keep attacking.
So Michael will take a long look. I agree with Craig. I think if I'm in Michael's spot here, regardless of hand, I think I've got some interest in taking that Lightning Bolt. Certainly don't have any interest in the Molten Rain. I'll tell you that much. And remember, when Thought-Knot Seer dies, Frank will get to draw a card. So his mana issues could be over pretty quickly here, depending on what he does draw.
Sure. But right now, this Thought-Knot Seer is just a brick wall.
Big difference between that on the play and the draw.
Yes.
And Michael's on the play this game. Follow up.
Oh, this is good. Yeah.
Hangback Walker's pretty good too.
Okay, I thought it might have been Matter Reshaper, which would have been a little more exciting here.
Yeah.
But just another play that turn was definitely important.
Did Frank find a second land? That's the question now. I do not think so. And by not drawing a second land here, he might have to convert now and turtle up.
Which is not a great strategy for the burn deck.
No, it's really, really not.
But yeah, I mean, if he didn't draw land, he definitely cannot be attacking.
Yeah, here's Lava Spike. Strianese is going to fall down to 13. And now all Frank can do is simply pass the turn back. He's going to need a whole bunch of lands now to get back into this. And he's also going to need Michael to have a lot of nothing.
Sure.
which strikes me as unlikely. Strianese going to kind of survey the battlefield here, take a look at his options. A lot of cards in hand. Pretty good battlefield there with the Thought-Knot Seer. The Hangerback Walker, though, there's only a 1/1 in Tron Online, so you know that he can probably do multiple things in a turn. How powerful? Well, that's yet to be seen. But he should be able to play multiple spells in a turn. Chalice on 2.
That's pretty good with Frank's hand.
Yeah. At least 2 Skullcracks, a Lightning Helix in hand. So this got harder for Frank.
Yep.
Destructive Revelry, of course, will be countered by that as well. There's no Eldrazi Temple.
I'm going to put myself out there and pick Michael in this game.
Yeah, yeah. See, I can respect that about you. Taking a hard line.
You know I'm a risk taker.
I do know that. Here's a Walking Ballista. That's on 2. And you know, Michael's going to want to keep that around for as long as he can so he can clear out these creatures. Here comes Thought-Knot Seer. Frank's going to take that. He's going to fall down to 13.
Yeah, and it's a very little thing, but I think Michael should have started by attacking.
Okay.
You know, he just gave away a lot more information about the way the turn was going to play out.
Frank will draw a card. Does Molten Rain deal 20? I haven't seen it for a while.
It only has to deal 13.
Okay. Here's a Goblin Guide. Pass that turn back. Strianese will draw a card.
What was the card that killed people on 13? Triskaidekaphobia?
Well done.
Yeah, did I nail it?
Yeah.
Whoa. Not going to see that card.
Probably not this game, no. No, pretty unlikely. Pretty unlikely. Another Eldrazi Temple.
Yeah, and the question here, does Michael want to just sink all of this mana into the Walking Ballista, pick off some of these creatures and clear the way for some attacks?
Here comes Thought-Knot Seer.
And it looks like the answer is no.
Yeah. I mean, he's taking a bit more of a conservative approach.
Well, we don't know what's in his hand. He might have another big spell to deploy here.
Love it. Love this double block.
Yeah, it's going to buy Frank some time.
Well, it's like, so he's not going to get to trade the Thought-Knot Seer. That's not going to happen. But you have to try,
Sure.
basically, right? Like, if you have very little chance to win, then you have to take some sort of risk to try to win.
Yes.
Because it'd be very easy to just say, okay, block my Swift Spear, go. You know, but maybe Michael misses it for some reason. Don't know why, but maybe that happens, and Frank's got to give himself at least an opportunity to win.
Yeah.
It's not like those Goblin Guides are going to do anything else.
No, I agree with you.
So that's a small thing. It's inconsequential, but I can certainly appreciate someone trying to win still.
Yeah, I mean, the only way Frank wins this game is if Michael makes a mistake, the Thought-Knot Seer dies, Frank is able to draw an extra card from that, and so he's like, if that's the only way I can win this game, I'll make a play where potentially that could happen.
Mm-hmm. Inspiring Vantage. And now a Lightning Helix. Again.
Just feeling him out.
Hey, we're trying. We're trying. He played that Lightning Helix with confidence, which I like.
Just feeling him out.
Yep. Swift Spear's coming in. 2/3, by the way.
Yep. And Michael Strianese has no bad decisions here.
No.
I think taking 2 damage is fine. This is the play that I would probably make, block and end up with two Thopters. But, you know, there's just no bad play. He's got enough life total where he's not under a lot of pressure.
Yeah, Swift Spear's a 2/3 because of the prowess trigger from the Lightning Helix. Even though it did get countered, you still get your trigger.
The Chalice of the Void is out there as the insurance policy against all of the cards in Frank's hand.
Yeah. Put a counter there on the Walking Ballista. Untap. Could have finished off the Swift Spear if he wanted to.
Could have. I wonder if he can just win the game from this point.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Little dumping into the Walking Ballista. And then firing off. That's what he's going to count right now. He's got 8, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 right now on the table.
So if he pumps it twice, that's 10. And then he has 4 counters to deal some more damage.
So he's got the W this turn if he sees it. And Michael has not missed much in the games that we have watched. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it looks like he's not seeing this line to win just yet. Well, that'll do it too.
Yeah.
That'll do it too. Another copy of Walking Ballista with a whole bunch of mana into it. And Michael Strianese is going to win game number 3 here over Frank Skarren. Eldrazi, Tron, and Burn are heading to a 4th game, but it is Eldrazi Tron that is up 2-1. There's a big difference in this matchup, Craig, between being on the play and being on the draw, and I think we just saw a really good example of that right there.
Well, and Frank just stumbled on mana. The Burn decks skimp on lands to the maximum because they need a density of spells in order to win the game, and sometimes they're just not going to draw that second land.
And I think it's I think his hand was perfectly keepable.
Oh yeah.
I want to take a look here at Frank's deck list. He does have 19 lands. It looks like he's not boarding into another one, but his deck is all 1 and 2 mana spells. And then he's got that Molten Rain. That's really about it. So you gotta take some risks when you're playing Burn, because here's one thing about Burn: it doesn't mulligan very well.
Yep.
That's the other thing about it too. It's a deck that's a critical mass of spells to get the job done. So he's going to take a risk. Did Frank to draw another land? He did not, and the writing was on the wall. Now, to Michael's credit, his deck has cooperated.
Yeah.
He's had Tron all 3 games by turn 3.
Yep. Well, that's what the deck does.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We haven't seen what we thought were the good draws for this matchup. We haven't seen our turn 2 Chalice. We haven't seen, Thought Nasir into Reality Smasher just getting really aggressive. So, both these decks could be doing better, but they are both kind of doing what they want to do.
Well, as these players do finish sideboard, it looks like Frank's going to the drawing board a little bit here. Remember, Frank's going to be on the play here for game number 4. Michael already shuffling his deck up for game number 4, so he's happy with his configuration. Let's talk about where you can go back and watch replays of this entire tournament. That's, of course, the StarCityGames.com, a YouTube page where you can watch replays of this tournament. You can watch Split Second every single day, hosted by Star City's own Jeremy Knoll. You can see the Versus Series with Brad Nelson, Todd Anderson, Todd Stevens, the newest member, of course, Tom Ross, and Ross Merriam. We've got Commander Versus with Jeremy Knoll, John Suarez, who, unfortunately for John, lost playing for Top 8 this weekend, but still one heck of a weekend.
Yeah, that's a good run.
So congratulations to him. Justin Parnell, and, of course, the American Dream, Stephen Green. We've got Magic Online playtesting with Pro Tour Omnicat champion Jerry Thompson, Pro Tour champion Ari Lax, Sam Black, and then me.
Yep, whole bunch of nobodies.
And then we've got the best of the SCG Tour. Subscribe today at youtube.com/StarCityGames. Become one of over 119,000 subscribers. I want to thank everybody for subscribing to the page, and hopefully you're enjoying the content. We'll have some new stuff, more mini-masters when Hour of Devastation comes out very, very soon. For now, of course, we've got these 2 matches in front of us. We've got Frank Skarren playing Burn against Michael Strianese playing Eldrazi Tron. On the other side of things, we've got James Woolmacher and his very innovative take on Abzan against Brian Koval and his mono-white Eldrazi kind of Death and Taxi mono-whitey deck.
Not Eldrazi.
No, I don't think there are any Eldrazi hiding in his deck this time. We've seen versions of the Eldrazi in those Death and Taxes decks. Some of them even play 2 colors, but he's just got a lot of Flicker Wisp. He's got a lot of Restoration Angels. Lean and Arbiters, just a...
Sure, get some golems, man.
Yeah, Blade Splicer, a weird-looking deck.
But the Blade Splicer, you just blink it, and then you blink it again.
No,
then you blink it again.
No, I get it. I get it.
And then you have a golem army.
You do, and they all have first strike. Hiya. So Brian's up 2-0.
Yeah, I like the sound effects.
Which you picked. You picked Brian to win that match.
Oh, I did?
You did,
yeah.
Oh,
that's lucky.
You did.
That's very, very fortunate for me.
Yeah, you just picked out of a hat, and you got it right. You got it right, so congratulations.
It's not over yet.
No, that's why they give you 5. Brian maybe has a very good pre-sideboard match, but things get worse post-board. Remember, in our elimination rounds, first 2 games pre-sideboard, final 3 games with sideboard. Players are happy here. And Frank will kick things off. Down 18 with the Sacred Foundry, and here's a Goblin Guide. Best start he's had.
Yeah, there it is, Frank.
Warping Whale, the reveal.
Yeah, a little surprised to see that one in the deck, but like we mentioned, there are enough cards that are awkward in this matchup that Michael wants to get out of his deck, that maybe that's why the Warping Whale is in there.
You saw Frank take a look at Warping Whale. We can do the same. You see here 2 mana, one of which is going to have to be colorless. And then it's exile target creature with power or toughness 1 or less. So you might be able to catch a stray Swift Spear or a Lavamancer, counter target sorcery spell, and then put a 1/1 colorless Eldrazi Scion creature token on the battlefield. You're going to sacrifice this creature, add a little mana. Might be able to accelerate to a little something. Now Frank with another copy of Goblin Guide. He's coming in for 4. Trigger. Seagate Wreckage. Trigger. Chalice of the Void. Get those 1-mana spells out of your hand! Cast them all!
Well, I mean, Frank's very fortunate. He's already on the board with a couple of creatures. If Michael takes a next turn to deploy the Chalice, which he probably will, it means Frank gets another clean attack step. And that's a turn potentially where Michael isn't able to advance towards the Tron.
Well, now, will he deploy the Chalice, or will he try to get all the way to the Tron? Because Tron is arguably the most powerful part of his deck.
Yeah, it's pretty critical. But for all we know, he could have it in his hand right now.
That's also true.
But yeah, this is the draw for Frank. He is so far ahead.
And this draw, much better on the play than on the draw. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think Frank would take this draw every game, no matter player draw.
Yeah. Goblin Guide's his best way to start.
Yep.
For sure. Now there's an Urza's Mine, and now Michael's got a real decision to make. He can play a Chalice on 1 if he wants to, or he can crack that Expedition map for something. Could be a power plant, could be an Eldrazi Temple, could be who knows what. Again, we don't have a great look at his hand. We know he's got a Seagate Wreckage over there and a Warping Whale. And he's doing a lot of thinking right now because Chalice is obviously pretty inviting. One thing that's interesting, though, especially after sideboard, what's the better number for Chalice, 1 or 2?
Well, and I think that's what Michael's really pausing on here. He's saying, can I just give Frank another turn, let him cast the 2-drop, let him activate this Lava Manch potentially, and then play it for 2 next turn? Or, you know, maybe I just can't play the Chalice at all this game.
Yeah.
You know, maybe I'm so far behind. Next turn I have to play a fatty of some sort. Don't have time to play Chalice for 2. Maybe not even for 1.
He's going to pass the turn back. He's not going to play the Chalice on 1. Feels like I need to get Tron online and hopefully go that route. So we'll head back Frank's way. 16 life, 2 Sacred Foundries, 2 Goblin Guides, and a Grim Lava Mancer. No cards in the graveyard just yet for the burn player. In for 5, 2 triggers. First trigger, Endbringer. See if he wants to shuffle in between the triggers and search up a land with the Expedition map.
Yeah, this is an interesting spot. You know, he has that Warping Well. He could potentially cast that card.
That's true.
The chances that it gets to kill the Grim Lava Mancer, though, is
so low.
So slim. Frank already knows about that card.
Yeah, and he's just going to take the damage. He's falling down even lower now.
10 a.m. Legacy Challenge players. Your round 3
down to 9 is Strianese. Frank going to search up a stomping ground with the Arid Mesa.
Frank's keeping up in the damage race.
Oh, does he have the Molten Rain? Oh, no, this game is over!
Oh, man.
No. The one of Molten Rain is rearing its ugly head. There's no coming back from this.
That's it.
Yeah.
This is the, oh, man, what a draw out of Frank this game. How absurd.
Eldrazi Tron is not going to beat this draw basically ever.
No.
On the draw, like, no.
Well, and now we see the importance of Michael breaking serve in that first game.
Yeah.
This deciding game, he gets to be on the play.
Yeah, being on the play game 5, because there's, he's not coming back this game. It's just not going to happen.
He can counter this Molten Rain.
He can.
But that keeps him off of Tron for a turn.
Yeah, yeah. I would even argue he has to counter this.
Yeah, I agree. I think he has to counter the Molten Rain, but it's still just, it's so backbreaking for him. He knows what he's drawing for his turn.
Yeah, and I don't think he has the Tron piece. Now, if he has the other Tron piece, let's see. Okay, Seagate Wreckage. I was going to say, things get a little more interesting if he just somehow secretly had the other Tron piece. There's a little bit of hope.
It's so slim. I mean, the play this turn might have been on his main phase or on his turn, use the map to go complete Tron and deploy the Chalice for 1.
And then just hope?
And then just hope.
Yeah, he would go down to 4 from the attacks, and just fingers crossed, I suppose.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, he's got to get lucky. He's got to maximize his luck.
Well, that line's off anyway.
Because he's played a land already.
He's played a land. I mean, he could still play this chalice here if he wants to, but
he's just going to pass. Let's go over to Frank. Molten Rain got countered, but everything else is resolved this game. He's got a Lightning Helix in hand.
yeah, I don't think he even cares that the Molten Rain got countered. And Frank has 9 points here. 4 with the Goblins, 3 with the Helix that we just saw, and then an activation of the Grim Lobomancer.
Okay. Looks like here he comes for 4.
Oh, what a filthy draw this game was.
This is a really good draw.
And the lands lined up perfectly, you know. Lands on 1, 2, and 3.
All the colors.
All the colors.
In case Destructive Revelry works itself into the equation. Trigger, Expedition Map.
Oh, Grim Lobomancer decided to get frisky.
A little surprised.
Me too.
This is your last chance to sign up for the 12 p.m.
I mean, potentially Frank just has multiple burn spells in his hand. You know,
Again, this is the last call.
a 1-drop and a 2-drop, or a land and 2 casting cost burn spell. You know, he's in such a good spot.
Yeah, the one thing we know for sure is that Frank has a Lightning Helix in his hand. The rest is you see him shuffling his cards pretty quickly. Cannot identify just yet.
And I think Frank could accidentally F6 through his turn and still end up winning this game.
I'll say this, I'd be shocked if he lost it. It'd be a best of SCG Tour moment, not in his favor, if he lost this one. Michael with a lot of big cards in hand, 2 Reality Smashers, an Endbringer over there. He might have another Warping Whale, I suppose. Here is Warping Whale. We're in Scion territory here. And while Frank is going to kind of contemplate how this is going to change things, we can tell you our first result of the weekend, folks.
What happened, Cedric?
Brian Koval, number 8 overall seed, on the draw all 3 games. He wins his match here over number 1 overall seed James Woolmacher, 3 games to 0.
Well, that's surprising.
Death and Taxes. Yeah, give me a minute. Death and Taxes does a win over Abzan. You may gloat now.
What do you mean? I'm just saying, no one expected that.
No?
That's, you know, it was 5-0 picked against them, wasn't it?
Here's a Lightning Helix. That's a Lightning Bolt.
Yeah.
You can count the damage any way you want to. What we're going to tell you now is that even though one match ended 3-0, this one's going to game number 5. As Frank Skarren and Michael Strianese are getting ready for their 5th and final one. Congrats to Brian Koval. He's going to play the winner of this match. Now, before we turn our attention back to this match, let's talk about Brian and who does he want to play? Because he plays the winner of this one. You think he one side or the other here? Since you're the Death and Taxes expert now? Yeah.
I'm actually taking a look at the sideboard here for Brian.
Okay.
His main deck is actually very well set up against these Eldrazi decks because he's got the full complement of Tech Edges and Ghost Quarters.
Okay.
You know, those can just be brutal when you're trying to set up Tron. But all of his creatures are so susceptible to a card like Walking Ballista that card's really scary for him. You know, some of his cards line up very well against Burn. Thalia is just a very effective card against Burn, blocking, making their cards more expensive. He's got a couple Burnt and Forge Tenders out of the board. So I'm not sure which way he would rather go.
It doesn't sound like he's that bad against either one.
Yeah.
Death and Taxes, huh?
I think it's just the perfect deck for the tournament. He nailed it.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how he does against Death Shadow if he gets there. Or Ring-a-ding-ding with the old Lantern. I bet Lantern's tough. I bet Lantern's pretty tough.
I bet Lander's super tough.
Yeah, I bet Lantern's pretty hard for his deck to beat. Like Dahlia Guardian of Thraben is pretty good.
Yep.
That's for sure, making all the one-man artifacts cost a little bit more.
The land destruction's pretty good.
Yeah, Revoker's okay, but Blade Splicer.
No, the question is, how does he beat Ensnaring Bridge?
Yeah, he's got 4 Flicker Wisps.
Oh, sure, just get off the board
he can
temporarily.
Wisp it, temporarily,
Sure.
maybe attack for lethal. Still strikes me as a tough matchup, and you know Adrian's probably got the highlighter out.
Yeah.
On Flicker Wisp 8 times. Yeah, you're not allowed to draw that. That's the only card you can't draw.
Notes in 3 different languages.
Yeah. Both players going to shuffle up here between Frank and Michael. Game number 5 on the way here. Michael going to be on the play for game 5. Breaking serve game 1, very big deal.
Yeah, and we see them go back to the sideboard here. I don't know if they're actually making some changes.
Maybe just
or
thinking
if it's
things
just
through.
posturing, but we had talked about how Molten Rain just seems so much worse on the draw. And it's possible that Michael only brought in the Warping Whales on the draw. Now that he's on the play, he doesn't want them. So possibly there are some changes going on.
Well, as Frank finishes things up, same thing can be said for Michael. Let's talk about the StarCityGames.com newsletter, which is your source for Magic the Gathering news. We got a lot of stuff going on in there, so make sure you do sign up. It's free, of course. Highlights from some of our very best articles. We're talking stuff from Patrick Chapin, Tom Ross, Jerry Thompson, Todd Stevens, and many, many more. Upcoming SCG Tour dates and locations. We got SCG Invitational Qualifiers and game nights near you. You can find those. An exclusive cardboard crack comic as well. Go to StarCityGames.com/newsletter. Sign up today. It's free, and you're on the internet anyway. So what are we even talking about?
It's so true.
So what are we even talking about? We don't send you that much stuff. So just take a look. Read it up and enjoy some free stuff. As we prepare here for our next couple of quarterfinals, Matthias Hunt and Ryan Overton for bringing you those. Adrian Sullivan, the ageless wonder. He's been doing this forever. Literally forever.
Yep.
He is in the top 8 here this weekend with Lantern Control. He's going to be going against Daniel Fournier, who is playing Grixis Death's Shadow. Lantern, a deck that Adrian went 8-0 through the modern portion of this tournament with. So for you Lantern fans out there, if you're curious if that deck can still get the job done, the answer is a resounding yes. And then the other matchup is Daniel Byington with Eldrazi Tron against Todd Anderson, who is playing Grixis Death's Shadow. Byington the 2, Anderson the 7. So that means that Daniel will be on the play for game number 1. Big deal in that matchup for sure.
Definitely. Yeah, all of these matchups, Modern is just a format with razor-thin margins. Okay, it's so diverse that occasionally we see very lopsided matchups, but generally when the decks line up well, it's just super interesting and the games are really close.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. As Frank is going to lay out his 7, Michael will do the same here in just a moment. Hopefully you have a nice little game 5 here between these two players. Been a good match so far.
Yeah.
One thing you can really tell about this matchup, the difference between the play and the draw.
Oh, it's huge. Huge.
It has been magnified in the games that we have watched. Michael's on the play. He's going to keep. So will Frank. And Eldrazi Temple is where things do start. If you're Frank, that's got to be scary. Inspiring Vantage, best 1-drop available.
Yep.
Matter Reshaper is the reveal. That could roadblock that Goblin Guide right away.
That's actually a really good one here because if he didn't have, you know, the other Temple for turn 2 Thought Knot Seer, then he has this play instead, which is very good against the Goblin Guide.
Cavern Soul is going to come on down, and I'm going to assume Eldrazi, but we'll get confirmation. There is the Matter Reshaper. Eldrazi is the name on the Cavern of Souls. Let's go over to Frank.
All of Frank's counterspells are now useless.
That's correct. Dunzo. Frank does have a second land in Wooded Foothills. Now, I'll tell you this much. He's probably got to clear that Matter Reshaper out of the way. It's never fun to have to do that.
No, killing a Matter Reshaper is just such a headache. If he gives Michael an additional land in play for free, whoa,
yeah,
that's huge.
It's going to be a lightning bolt. It's going to take care of the Matter Reshaper. There will be a trigger so long as Michael remembers it. Take a look. Okay, all right, that's a miss.
Yeah, for sure.
Hangerback Walker. And now Waste's going to go to the hand. So Michael's down to 16.
But that's still 3 points of burn that didn't end up going after Michael's head.
So Goblin Guide has dealt 4. But it's also drawn Michael a card. Snow-covered mountain here from Frank.
Yeah, I think ideally Michael would have preferred to not have drawn a card that turn.
Okay.
Had the land on top and just gotten it into play for free with the Matter Reshaper.
Sure.
You know, if those 2 cards on top were in the opposite order, he would have been much happier.
A Lava Spike's going to bring Michael down to 13. Let's head his way. Pretty confident that he has a Thought Knots here. And he does.
There it is.
Trigger.
Oh,
boy.
man.
Frank's hand is not very good, folks.
This is a great spot for Mike.
3 lands, Stomping Ground, Sacred Foundry, and a Scalding Tarn. It's got to be spells all the way here out for Frank. He'll draw a card. Looks like he did draw a spell. It was a Boros Charm.
It's a fine one, but even spells all the way out here might not be enough.
It may not be.
You know, 13 is a lot of life.
Well, let's call it 9.
Sure.
Let's call it 9.
But that's still 3 more turns of spells that he needs to draw to close out this game.
Frank will play a Scalding Tarn. He'll pass the turn back. Let's head over to Michael.
And one thing you know about these Eldrazi Tron decks, from here, his board's only going to get bigger.
Doesn't take a lot for him to close. If you're Frank, you're hoping to fade Chalice of the Void. Among many other things, truthfully. Strianese starting to move around some lands here. Where does he want to go? He's got all the cards, and he knows exactly what his opponent is working with. Okay. Response.
Yep.
Here's a Boros Charm. Strianese going to fall down to 9. Stomping Ground, Sacred Foundry. You taking this first hit or you blocking?
That's a tough call. I think you just block right away if you can.
You might not get another opportunity.
Exactly. If you end up with the Goblin Guide not able to block in a critical spot, you're just like, man, why didn't I just block earlier? And the idea that this Goblin Guide's going to get to attack for a meaningful 2 points of damage at some point is wildly hopeful.
Here's a Hangerback Walker. Frank will untap. He'll draw a card. It's got to be a spell, folks. They got to be spells all the way on out.
Yep.
It's the only shot he's got. And one of them might have to be Lightning Helix. Lava Spike down to 6.
A little closer.
2 to go. 2 more 3 damage spells to go. But yeah, now here's the tough part. If you are Frank, and you mentioned it, he has to really hope he gets the opportunity to block here. And I am just not convinced that will be the case, but we will see. Because if I'm Michael and I've got some sort of removal spell, I want to kill this Goblin Guide.
Yep.
He's going to get the chance to do that. It's going to be for 2 to kill that. Yep. 4, 8, 9.
Sure. So Frank has 1 draw step here. Michael knows what's in Frank's hand. He knows he's going to win this game.
Yeah. So he never got the opportunity to block with that card. Even Lightning Helix doesn't do it. He draws a card. He'll play a Swift Spear, and that certainly ain't going to do it.
Nope.
And unfortunately for Frank Skarren fans out there, his tournament is going to be coming to an end here relatively soon. Warping Whale actually has the ability to take care of this card and take care of this match. Michael Strianese is going to win this match here over Frank Skarren 3 games to 2. Eldrazi Tron will break serve against Burn.